I have one for Scott if we want to start. So I'm new to the entrepreneurial world. I came out of big corporate and government, and so we learned a lot of lessons learned. To your point, on there's things you see on TV and read and hear from others that are completely disconnected from reality.
Mhm.
One of the things I learned is how hard it is to get seed capital in a world of cloud, where especially on software, they expect you to do a lot of things early on because the barriers to entry are much lower than they used to be. How do you see the software world changing on seed rounds? And what advice would you give companies starting on trying to get a seed?
Well, thanks for asking, Travis. Um, I actually, it's funny because I think my answer has a lot to do with something you said earlier, and I'll unpack that. Investors these days don't invest in ideas anymore. They invest in businesses more than ever before, by which I mean they want to see some revenue. It's just, as you said, too easy to start a business, especially a software business. You don't need $1 million like you used to. A software business 20 years ago was a big deal, but now with SaaS platforms and no code environments, and it's easier to deploy than ever. So you need to have something to show investors before they'll really even talk to you. But the answer to that is actually, I think, something you said earlier. And I don't know if you saw me smiling because I was just talking to somebody about this yesterday, but the idea of testing along the way and developing proof points and validation is what you can do with little cost, right? So I think of it in terms of sort of a ramp of you have no money, no customers, no nothing, but what's the small thing you can do on an affordable basis in a short amount of time that shows something? And that could be as easy as talking to 3 potential customers and writing down their reactions, right? And then take that feedback and then talk to 10 customers. And that doesn't cost anything except 10 minutes for 10 phone calls. And so in an afternoon, you could have essentially a little focus group, at least if you're working in an industry that you're familiar with, which hopefully you are. um, and that kind of thing is how you build sort of a pseudo traction or fake traction that can demonstrate to an investor that you might be able to turn that into revenue traction as well. So that's the thing I've been thinking a lot about yet lately. I think that the beta test is the software industry's greatest gift to the business world, because it introduces this idea that, hey, we do sell things and they're not finished, right? And we need your help to test them. That was, in the 20th century, nothing left the warehouse unless it was perfect, and if it wasn't, it got returned, right? These days, you can move fast, break things. You can test stuff live, which means that you can get customer feedback. So the sooner you're talking to customers, and then you can use that as essentially as an asset to demonstrate to investors that you have a business that customers are not only like, but might actually be willing to pay for. That's when investors start to get interested. So I hope that was helpful. Was that
Yes, sir.
on target?
Thank you.
I've got one for Priyank if we've got another minute. I'm always curious about the difference in strategy between filing patents versus trade secret protection,
Mhm.
because some companies prefer, as you know, to kind of hide the ball rather than disclose
Right.
anything in the public databases from the Patent and Trademark Office. What's your advice on that?
Uh, had you asked this question to me 5 years ago, I would have said, let's keep everything secret and do not disclose anything out to the public, because otherwise people will start copying you right, left, and center. But today, with the amount of data which is anyways out in the market, and again, if you're talking about a SaaS based or software model, then there's nothing like a secret, right? People are using open source libraries, pre-packaged software platforms, which is allowing you to code without even actually coding. So all you have got is an approach. It's your step-by-step process or an algorithm as your secret or as a secret sauce, right? And if you want to protect that, the best way is to file a patent so that nobody else can claim authority on the same amount or the same steps or the flow which you are coming up with, irrespective of the technology, irrespective of the languages which are used to develop the product. If you have the patent on the basic step itself, the basic flow chart, the algorithm itself for the softwares, then you basically stop people from entering into the same space for next 20 years, which is very easy because the federal government is giving you protection and allowing you to have that right and enjoy the fruits of that particular technology over the period of 20 years. On the other hand, if you try to keep that algorithm, for example, as a secret, I mean, I can hardly imagine that that's possible, right? So all these tech giants like Google, Facebook, Microsoft, or even IBM, they have filed so many patents. I mean, thousands of patents just for because of the fact that it's very difficult or rather impossible to keep the softwares as secret, right? Uh, Anybody and everybody can reverse engineer a piece of code very easily, right? On the other hand, if you have a product like Coke, they are able to keep the recipe of the Coke still as a secret. The formula is still a secret because the people who know it are not even meeting in person for once after they started manufacturing it, right? So if you ask Coke or if you read the stories about how much of effort, the capital intensive effort it is to keep the recipe secret, it's huge. They are able to do that because they are in that typical market, or the product allows product allows them to do so. But for startups or for mid-sized companies, keeping anything secret is next to impossible. And in today's world of data, I don't think so anybody would love to keep waiting, assuming that they have kept things secret. But the moment the product launches in the market, within a week you will see the copies or the replicas of the same product out in some other part of the world. So a patent is your basically an answer to stop all of that.
Interesting. Thank you. That's very interesting, and that's an update, as you said. So things really are moving. Thank you.
Yeah, I think at my 2 cents to his comments is that when a company grows to middle to large size, the patent itself was actually a fighting tool against these components, so that they probably have a wall of the patents list all the things they are already applied for. That was usually a tool against the competitors, so that they want to attack each other to get a balance trade-offs between each other.